Hello and welcome to this episode of PECS and Politics, a slightly diagonal, lopsided world today. But I thought, why not? Because the world kind of is in a metaphorical sense. Now, what did I want to talk about today on this episode of PECS and Politics? It's been a while since I've been here, and the world continues to be a rather confusing, illogical place at times, and obviously the things that still frustrate me still continue to frustrate me, alongside things like the Boris Johnson government, Donald Trump, climate change denial, Brexit. And you may ask yourself, well, what about COVID? Seeing as I haven't really posted any videos since COVID been around, well, I don't really have any strong opinions about COVIDs. Pandemics happen. Do I think it's some kind of lie that governments have invented to control us? Not really, but it's possible, I suppose. But I actually don't care that enough about it. I care that my parents are well and everybody's family and friends and loved ones are well, and we all do the best we can within the lives that we lead to try and minimize risks to everybody. And that's about all I can say about COVID. What I want to say today is talk about today something which is really far more of a disease and far more of a dangerous thing, as far as I'm concerned, than a pandemic, which is ignorance. And I want to talk about the one thing that you can do to try and fight against the people that many of you claim to be against, the elites. Now, I personally don't know who elites are as such, but I think when many people talk about elites, they're talking about the wealthiest, the most powerful people in our society, who run society irrespective of the needs, desires, wants, ambitions of the rest of us, of society at large. And they don't really care about them because they don't need to care about them or us. They don't need to care about us because they are so incredibly wealthy. The lives of everybody else is irrelevant to them. They don't even know what their lives are like. And all they care about is their own accumulation of wealth and living lives of luxury and their own goals and ambitions in their lives, and not of the greater good of the greatest number of people in society, i.e. the rest of us. So what can you do to try and fight against the elites and try to at least create a society where we all have a bigger stake, where we all have a voice, not just the elites? I mean, elites should still be allowed to have a voice. They still are part of society. But what they shouldn't do is, through their exercise of power, is exclude the rest of us from that power, because we don't have the financial resources or the connections or the influence that they are very often born with or can accumulate through the accumulation of wealth, greed and capital. So what can you do to help to fight against these people? Because the problem is, many of you, millions of you, are actually supporting these people. You think and you say that these people are your enemies, and yet in one hand, these are the people who don't know what you want. These are the people who don't understand your needs and your requirements in life and your goals and aspiration. You say that in one hand, and on the other hand, you give them your votes and your support. Why? Because of your ignorance. And those people know that you are ignorant, and they feed on your ignorance to get your support, while on the other hand complaining about those sorts of people. Who are these people, for example? Let's talk about them. You think a man who went to Eton, who comes from one of the wealthiest parts of the country of the United Kingdom, grew up in privilege, wealth, as I say, went to Eton, went to Oxford, I believe. Could have been Cambridge, I don't care enough, but I believe it was Oxford. Was mixing around with other elites of British society, the wealthy, the powerful, the corrupt sometimes. You think this is a man who understands you, Mr. Boris Johnson? You really think that? I'm not saying Boris Johnson shouldn't have a voice and shouldn't have power if it is deserved and shouldn't have the right to say what he wishes to say? He absolutely should. So should Jacob Rees-Mogg. But you think Jacob Rees-Mogg, who talks like this, who was brought up by a nanny, who was brought up in mansions in the southwest of England, and owns a massive mansion now, and talks to you in the most patronising manner, and asks you to stop carping on about the coronavirus and the inefficient testing system in the UK, that we should be congratulating ourselves and patting ourselves on the back because it's so comparatively good compared to other countries in Europe. You think these people actually care about you? What they do is they feed on your fears. They know that many of you think the problems that are caused in the United Kingdom are caused by foreigners. They know that you think the problems are caused by immigrants. And they feed on that. They knew that you didn't like Europe because you thought Europe, the European Union, was the cause of all the problems in the UK and those foreigners telling us what to do. And those foreigners coming over and taking your jobs and speaking in languages you didn't understand. They knew that that was what you thought. Now, do I believe that Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg are racists? Or even, let's take it over the Atlantic, Donald Trump, who uses exactly the same tactics to feed on Americans. The ignorance of Americans who don't like foreigners, who don't like Mexicans, don't like black people, particularly black people complaining about being maltreated by the police. Donald Trump uses exactly the same philosophy. Do I think Donald Trump is racist? Do I think Jacob Rees-Mogg is racist? Do I think Boris Johnson is racist? Do you know what? I don't think they care enough to be racist. To be a genuine racist, as in you hate foreigners, you have to genuinely dislike something about foreigners. I don't think Boris, Jacob or Donald dislike people enough. What they do is they love themselves more than anything else. The only reason they dislike other people is because they are not them and they don't give a shit about them. Whether they're black, Mexican, female, Jewish, Asian, disabled, gay, they don't give a fuck about them because they are not Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Donald Trump, because all they care about is themselves and their own wealth and their accumulation of wealth. They don't care what they say, what they do, as long as the only thing in life that's being looked after, the only ambitions that are being met, the only bank accounts which are being increased are their own. That's all they care about. They have no other morals outside of that box. Their morality extends only within the four corners of that box of selfish ambition and gain. Anything else outside that box is fair game. You can be racist, you can be homophobic, or you can tone that down if you think that's what you need to do at that moment in time to get ahead, to reach your goals, to increase the amount of money in your bank account and lower the amount of tax that you need to pay. You can lie about climate change if you think that believing in climate change is going to affect your business and your ability to accumulate wealth. They don't care about the environment, really, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. They only know that the only game they're thinking about, well, if I pursue the climate change game, is that going to increase or decrease my votes? Is that going to increase or decrease my ability for my capital to grow, for my business chances to grow? That's all they care about. If you think they care about you, living in your council house in Bradford, not having a job, getting paid minimum wage if you do have one, not being able to feed your family, they don't give 1 ounce of a fuck. In fact, they're the people who are causing you problems. They're the people who run the types of company who employ people with a minimum wage, because that's all they want to pay you. But they don't actually want to pay you that. They want to pay you less than that, but they've been legally made to pay you a minimum amount. They would rather not have to pay you anything. Bear in mind that people like Jacob Rees-Mogg's family are still inheriting money as recompense for having employed and used slaves in the past. Are the descendants of those slaves getting any money in return? No, Of course not. But Jacob Rees-Mogg's family benefited from the fact that they had to close down companies and lose lands and lose employees as in slaves, and they're now benefiting from that. Nice. What a lovely society we live in. So what can you do to fight against these elites that you think are the people who are helping you? Well, not be so ignorant to believe that. And how do you not be ignorant? You get an education. When I say get an education, that doesn't mean you need to go to university, doesn't mean you even need to go back to school. You can get an education yourself. If the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad goes to the mountain. Inform yourself. I know people who have no money. I know people who are very poor, who are very well educated and informed, and have common sense and logic and concern. I know other people like Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg, who have some of the best educations in the world, but are as thick as pig shit and don't give a fuck about you. Become informed, get educated, and use your votes wisely to fight against the real things that you care about, the real things that are going to affect your lives, which is changing these regimes to be run by people who actually care about you. Not people who don't give 1 ounce of a fuck, but will say whatever they need to get you to vote for them, because they know that at the moment you are ignorant, you are gullible, you are full of hate, you're full of jealousy, you are full of resentment because of your ignorance. And they will feed on that, but they will do nothing to solve any of it. Except momentarily maybe make you feel good by going on about Britain this and Britain that and America's great. It's not going to be better or great. They're just going to make it even shitter in the long term. While in the meantime, just tell you what you want to hear, and you're going to believe it because of your own ignorance. Stop it. Get educated. Just my advice today. Thank you for watching this episode of PECS and Politics. A little bit of PECS. It's a bit chilly today, but there we go. There's a little more. As long as it gets you more political, gets you thinking, I will keep bringing the PECS out for you. Stay safe, stay well, look after each other, and we'll be back soon. And if you want to leave your comments, please do. Whether you agree, disagree, whether you hate me, whether you like me, whatever. I don't care. Let's get talking. Let's get political. Ciao for now.